We are ready to talk about directions on Review and Preview 7.2.2. The first question you see with question 52 says to simplify each of the following expressions. Parts A, B, and C are all division. So with fractions, there's multiple ways you can do that. Just make sure when you get your answer, you express it in simplest form. For part D, you need to take the mixed number, turn it into an improper fraction first, then you can multiply across, simplify if possible. For both parts E and F, we have one that's a fraction, one that's a decimal. So you've got to make some decisions whether you want to change the fraction to a decimal or do we want to change the decimal to a fraction. It's your choice, your preference, but make sure they're both the same thing before we can add or subtract those for E and F. On question 53, it says to calculate each of the following products. These are all multiplication. So we can take numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Don't forget to answer part E. For question 54, find the area of the shape in at least two ways. And on your answer sheet, there's a hint that says one way may involve addition and the other one would involve subtraction. So as an example, for one way of finding the area, I could break this into two smaller rectangles, find the area here, find the area here, and then add them together. Or, as an alternative, the second thing I could do would be pretend as if this is one whole entire complete rectangle. I can find the area of what that whole rectangle would be, then take away this part here that's missing. So if I find the area of the whole thing, find the area of the chunk that's missing, then I can subtract those and find what's left. Keep in mind, both answers that you have should be the same. For question 55, she's got 5 pizzas that she is cutting into slices that are eighths. We know from previous experience, if she's cutting it into eighths, that means there would be 8 pieces for each pizza. So for part A, how many slices will she have? You can take probably one step to get your answer. Then part B asks you to represent that situation with a mathematical sentence. And when it asks if you can find more than one way to do this, I can also give you a hint that one way would involve a multiplication sentence and the other way would involve a division sentence. So keep those two in mind for when you're coming up with your answers for part B. Last question is 56. Calculate each of the following products. That means all 4 of these are multiplication. On part A and part D, we can simply do numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Make sure you simplify when you get to the end if you can. For part B, we've got some decimals. So multiply, ignore them to start with. Then when you get your answer, go back up and count how many digits do we have behind a decimal point. That tells you how many times to the left you have to move to put your decimal point in your answer. On part C, we have 2 improper fractions that we have to make into mixed, no, I said that backwards. 2 mixed numbers that we have to turn into improper fractions before we can multiply across, and then make sure when you get to the end that you do simplify your answer.